Welcome to our educational series on South Asian mental health. Coming out to family and friends can be a difficult process. This can be especially complicated when you are South Asian and culture plays a major role in everyday lives. To learn more about the struggle our LGBTQ community members face, we continue our discussion with Dr. Sudha Wathwani in part 2 of our video series. Dr. Wathwani obtained her doctorate in clinical psychology from the Rutgers Graduate School of Applied and Professional Psychology in 2000. She's a New Jersey licensed psychologist and coordinator of outreach and prevention at Montclair State University Counseling and Psychological Services, where she runs a coming out support group. She maintains a private practice in Montclair, New Jersey. She specializes in working with South Asian individuals and families, LGBTQ issues across cultures, women of color, as well as issues of acculturation and intergenerational conflicts. Dr. Wathwani is on the advisory panel of Samhin and advises on the issues of youth, diversity, and LGBTQ.
So what makes coming out difficult, especially for South Asians?
We have a very heteronormative culture with very clearly defined gender norms and roles and expectations. From a very young age, there's an emphasis on marriage and creating a nuclear family within then a larger family system, an extended family that's very important. There are having children and raising a child with a mother and a father, even weddings, shadis. It's a very the buildup, right? The buildup, your whole life to that, is all part of a heteronormative value system. Heteronormative meaning man and woman, and so that is the air that everyone has breathed, how they have been conditioned, right? Also, in our culture, the self comes last, right? One of the parts of our culture that is a beautiful part, the collective part, the family-oriented part, can also negate the self. So I hear so often from so many of my patients that the concern of image, the family name, a sense of duty, what will people think? I've done workshops called What Will People Think? And I think that image is more important than happiness and self-fulfillment, that's considered selfish. I think the college students that I work with, making their parents happy, being a role model for their younger siblings, for their cousins, is a priority even before themselves. They don't want to hurt their parents. They don't want to hurt their families. They don't want to cause stigma and shame for them because of all they've sacrificed, right? There's a fear of judgment, not only for themselves, but for their family, for their extended family name. That what if my cousin back home in India can't get married because of my identity? So bringing shame, a sense of loyalty, a love for family. I think also making them proud, approval and pride and conformity is, I think, is even to say it's very important is kind of an understatement. It's everything, right? And so these are all barriers for someone who does not conform or does not fit that formula, those ideals, they not only can experience disapproval or shame, but it can be unsafe for them. And it can be dangerous for them and for their family members. So it's very understandable to have a fear of coming out for themselves and people that they love.
I think you touched on this a lot, but I want to ask also, in your practice, what are some of the inner struggles that you see LGBT individuals facing?
As I share this, I'm going to ask listeners to please really empathize. Please really try to understand and put yourself in someone's shoes. I work with people who have such internalized shame, such self-hatred, self-loathing, internalized homophobia, feeling that something is wrong with them, particularly if there's a conflict with their religious identity, feeling that they are damaged, are defected, are sinning, are causing shame to their families, perhaps then being a burden to their families. This can cause great pain. You know, I can feel their pain. You know, that who they are, who they love, who they feel emotionally and physically attracted to, who they can be their true full self with, is not acceptable to others, is judged by others. And they don't have a right to those feelings or to their identity. Just imagine how painful that must be for someone, that they have to deny themselves of that. You know, it's very real, and I think it is time to challenge our assumptions, challenge those heteronormative formulaic views that we were raised with. And it's time to show compassion and love and recognize that not everyone fits into these molds and expectations and views that we were conditioned with.
What about suicide? Is someone who's LGBT at a higher risk for suicide?
Very much high risk for suicide. If you think about it, if someone feels that sense of pressure, that sense of shame, not only personally, but for their family, if they feel they are not able to love, if they feel they're not able to be their full selves. I've worked with people who may be in such conflict between who they love and knowing that their family is arranging them with someone, whether through the formal system or some level of, there's such a range of how more modern arranged marriages occur, you know, through word of mouth, through name, through family, through other relationships. And so that inner conflict and that inner turmoil can cause such great psychic pain for someone, to the point where they feel that their families would be better off without them, or they feel that they're a burden, they're shameful, and they feel no way out. You know, suicide, they say, is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. But for these individuals in this situation, they don't see it as a temporary problem. They see no other option. That they have to live this lie and conform to the expectations of others, or die. You know, so think about the pain. It's hard to even, to say that. And as I say that, I have faces to that. I have people that I work with who really feel that pain. So I'm asking for family members, for listeners, to take a moment and think about that. Think about what you're asking. Think about what you're denying someone that you love, and really challenge some of those beliefs that we were conditioned with, raised with, and start to question them and start to open your mindset to go beyond image or what others think, and think about your child, your family member, having a happy and healthy life.
Well said. Thank you. That was very informative. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, Dr. Wathwani, for taking the time to provide your perspective on this important topic. Please visit samhin.org to learn more about Samhin's programs and services, as well as resources and tips for the LGBT community.